Hey guys, welcome back to the Thriving in Love podcast, the podcast that challenges the status quo so couples can thrive as their most authentic selves. Today on the show is actually a little interesting because Hannah started as a very non-conventional relationship and journeyed through finding her authentic self and found that the traditional model of a relationship is actually very fulfilling for her at this stage in her life. Please welcome Hannah, who is a multi six-figure goddess and embodied business mentor. And she is so badass. Her content is going to awaken the fuck out of your life force. So if you're ready for a revamp on who you are and becoming more of your true essence, head to the show notes because her Instagram is right there and give her a follow. Hannah, welcome. And thank you so much
Hi.
for being here. I'm so excited to dive in
You're
today.
welcome. Thank you for that introduction.
Of course. When I met you, I think it was in one of my workshops that I was hosting, and you joined and you shared your beautiful energy and your story with us. It kind of shattered my world wide open. And I was like,
Oh,
I have
yeah?
to have her on my podcast because it's the first time where somebody was not afraid of exploring something traditional after like being in like such a non-conventional area and like
Mm-hmm.
that journey is not easy, like people think, oh, it's easier to be normal, just like everybody else or whatever. But when you have identified as a version of you that was probably so proud of how different and unique and
Oh, yeah.
vibrant that journey was. So, like,
Oh, yeah.
walk us through that. Like, how and when did you start to realize that maybe a monogamous relationship could be really fun?
Ooh, okay. So, actually, before the relationship that I'm in, that is like, I would call it monogam-ish. I wouldn't say we're like super
Perfect. Love it.
traditional. We'll
LA
get to that.
monogamous is a
Yes, like
thing
we'll get
apparently
there.
here.
Like, I wouldn't say we're full on traditional monogamy.
Perfect. Yeah.
We'll get to why. But basically, I'd never been in any sort of monogamous relationship except for experience like my boyfriend in high school, which was like
Mm.
almost like extremely on the side of like good girl monogamy. Like he was a Christian boy. I didn't grow up religious, but I like went to church with him. Actually had an experience of feeling really, yeah, almost like that was when like the first time I felt like slut shamed. Not like he was doing it intentionally, but like I felt responsible for being the temptress and like having these experiences that like he didn't feel good about, that he actually like carried guilt around. So that was sort of like the beginning of being like the rebel going against the grain. A big part of my story is like the secret bad girl is where I started. So I was like the girl that like ran varsity cross country and got straight A's. Also was like smoking spliffs before class and like stripping for guys on the internet and sneaking into raves. And so a
Love
lot of
it.
my life has been like, okay, I'm this, good, feminine, pretty girl on the outside, but inside, like, there's this like fucking dark feminine monster. So when I got to college, I basically had this whole awakening around I got to be myself for once in my life. Like I have to discover what love is for me, really like unleash like full slut power in college. I started dating a woman, and her and I were actually in a class called Sociology of Sex. We learned about polyamory in that.
Wow.
And actually before that class, I had a big judgment about polyamory because I dated this guy, this older guy I like met him on OkCupid or something, and he would like shame poly people. So I kind of picked up this belief
Yeah.
and I was like shaming poly people with him. And then I discovered it in like from a very academic perspective, actually, with my study buddy, who later became my girlfriend. We like geeked out on it. We're like, this is so cool. Like, love is quantum, love is free. Like, we should be allowed to do whatever the fuck we want. And that turned into us being like, let's date. Well, we had this conversation about how cool poly was. Let's try it.
Amazing.
And then I was just with her, and then I had a boyfriend and her at a certain point, and stayed with that man for like 5 years. Poly relationship, super open, really beautiful and painful many times. Then I dated another woman. Also, we had a pretty open relationship, but every time my partner started actually dating someone, like not sleeping with them, I was always okay with that. I'm like, fucking other people was fine. That never actually really triggered me that much. It was when they would date other people.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah. So I'm more like romantically jealous than sexually jealous.
Wow.
Is something I
Have
discovered.
you been like, yeah, I would love to dive into that a little later about like the difference. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I became a sex worker. So I've done tantric massage and now like tantric companionship, luxury, like escorting for almost 10 years now. And so my work became very intimate and sexual.
Yeah.
So it was this thing where it's like, well, my work is basically being a slut, but I'm also like jealous when my partners like actually want to date someone else. So fast forward to a few years ago, I had left a poly permaculture community. It was during COVID. I like lived with like 20 hippie, poly, esoteric, witchy, magical people for like 8 months in Costa Rica. Epic experience, but also it like really destroyed me. Like I thought I was living the dream. I thought I had hit gold. Like I'm living on I'm starting a farm retreat center with like a bunch of people like me. And this is what I've always wanted, like to have babies and not even care who the father is. Like I was like fully on that side.
Wow.
After 8 months of that, I was like the most depleted I had ever been. Like I'd gained a bunch of weight. I was in debt. Like it was like maybe the third dark night of the soul I had, like the most recent one. And I like didn't even see it coming. It was just like one day I was like, holy shit, I'm depressed. This is not actually working for me. I left and I was like, I got to take care of myself and figure this out. And so I moved to Colorado by myself and I got an apartment, lived by myself for the first time. Very drastically different than what I had been living with like a bunch of people. I was like, okay, mountains, grounding. I don't know. I'd always lived on the coast. Like I'm a California girl originally. I've lived all up and down the coast. I spent a lot of time on the East Coast. And I like got called to the mountains because like I need to ground and like just get that like deep earth energy. And I kind of like didn't know anyone here. I needed to recreate myself. I wanted to not go back to like San Diego where I was, where there was a bunch of like poly sex people, figure out who I was and have that space. Didn't want to be too close to my family either because I'm like, I'm in a fucking complete recreation of myself moment. I can't be too close with my family.
You needed to go into your like solitude cocoon, into your own energy without being influenced by external forces.
Yes. So I did that, hired like a business mentor, and just like went full in on my coaching business. And I started to date. Like I got on Tinder. I started to date and I'm like, I want to date some normal ass men. Like I need to date the most normal men I can find. And so I did, and I had some like okay experiences and I had some like really not great experiences. I had one really good experience with Steven, who's my partner now. Yeah, this like coffee date turned into like 12 hours of hanging out. And at first I was like, this guy, he's from Dallas, he's younger than me, like he's not actually my man. No way.
Yeah. I had the same reaction when I first started dating my husband.
Oh, really? Yeah. I was like, no way. He's like, he is too normal. Like he is, he's so like, has barely experienced life. Like, and I've traveled the world and done all this crazy plant medicine and weird stuff. And he doesn't even understand any, you know? So I decided to take him home and fuck him. Yeah, I was like, there's no way he's my person, so let's just like do this.
My husband and I also had sex on our first date.
Really? Yeah. I was like, in my head, I was like, if it seems like he's the person, like, don't have sex with him right away, Hannah. Just like control yourself. But I was like, he's not the person. But he was. So I like fell in love with him pretty fast. Yeah,
like how was that experience because it sounds like it's similar to mine where like we started to date these people thinking like, oh, we're just having fun, we're just experiencing, we're just like going with the flow. But like, was there a moment, and what was that moment when you were like, oh no, this is something more?
So I've been holding a boundary of we hang out once a week. So we'd hang out once a week for like, I think that was like almost 2 months. And at a certain point, I had to tell him I was a sex worker because I was like going on a tour and I was like, I am not going to lie to this person. But I also was playing with not coming out right away, telling people this because certain dates like went sour if I told them on the first date. So I played with not telling him for like the first month. And then when I told him, he responded like the best response I ever could. I was like terrified because I'm like, I actually like this guy, and this is like, there's a lot of men that aren't okay with this. And he was like, thank you so much for trusting me with this sensitive information. Yeah. I really like appreciate that you want to share this with me. And you know what? Like, I've actually seen escorts in the past when I was like going through a breakup, and they really helped me. So I really appreciate the work that you do in the world. And I was like, oh my God. So that was like the first moment. And then the second moment was like, we were on a date. I took him to a concert, and he basically turned to me and he's like, so I've been telling my coworkers you're my girlfriend. Like, can I call you my girlfriend? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, I know you're like poly and all this stuff, but I just want to be with you. You do whatever you want though. You do you. I'm in love with you. So I don't want you to stop doing anything you're doing just because I just want to be with you, but just know like, I'm not trying to date anyone else. I just want to be with you. And that was the moment where I was like, fuck, I actually just want to be with you too.
That like, is so beautiful.
Yeah. And because I had been calling that in, actually. I'd been like, since the whole thing, I was like, I need to try monogamy. I've had every other kind of relationship. Like, I need to try monogamy. How do I know it's not for me?
Oh, and such a powerful question.
I was like, 6 months. We're going to be in a monogamous container for 6 months. And he's like, are you sure you don't have to do this? I'm like, no, this is for me. I was like, 6 months, I'm committed to this. And then like, we'll have another check-in. So I would say we're emotionally monogamous. Like, I identify as polysexual. So that getting into the difference of that. And I'm still doing some of the escort work. So the only threesomes or like he's hired providers before, like the only sex we're having outside of our relationship is transactional. So that's, I'm like, it's not that traditional.
No, not at all. Not in like the sense of like what I was thinking. So thank you for that clarification and for sharing and taking us on that journey. Like, wow, what a journey that you have been on of exploring and being curious. I think that's what the number one word that's coming to me is like when you receive these intuitive nudges of even like, oh, try monogamy. You immediately could have been like, no, like that's not who I am. But you were so open to allowing yourself to build this super intimate relationship with your inner self. One, with the call to go to Colorado, the comfort zone was San Diego. The comfort zone was being with your family. And you were like, no, like something that I admire so much about your story is you're very willing to dive into the deep end on the edge of how far can I stretch myself beyond where my safety zone is. And it's so wild that that journey, that experience guided you to a very safe, healthy container. And it sounds like when you told your partner, Stephen, about, your work, when he responded the way he did, he created this beautiful, safe container for you to just be authentically who you are. And I think like if he responded in any other way, any hesitation and this and that, like you were at a point in your journey where you were fully accepting your authentic self and you needed somebody to accept your authentic self. And you weren't willing to settle for anything less than that.
Yeah, really.
That's amazing.
It was like that. Like I was scared to tell him because I was like, if he's not okay with this is not going to work. Like I need someone who's okay with who I am. It was the same exact thing with my relationship. So when I had the intuitive nudge to live alone and be in my cocoon of solitude, I was very traditionally married. Like, I mean, we still are very traditionally married, but like we were living together and, traditional norms and all this stuff. And I was so scared to even ask him or, just let him know what I'm feeling of, hey, I think I need to live alone. I think I need to just be in my own energy and figure out who the fuck I am when I'm not in a relationship with somebody else, whether it's
romantic or platonic. I was scared that he was going to be like, well, then that's not marriage. Like, what do you mean? Like, you're my wife, blah, blah, blah. And all he said was, babe, like, it sounds like it could be a fun time. Like, we'll stay together. We'll do what you want to do. We'll take it the way you want to, whatever you need. That's what it means. Like, I think that's like I coach so many couples now, and I feel like that's the moment that the wild feminine needs in order to feel like she's completely free to do and be whoever she wants to be. Like, I think our conditioning from past lives, as like, we probably have these like witch wounds and this and that because our authentic self was never accepted. We've been burned at the stake. We've been, told and shunned from society. We're like the women that live detached from society in a little cave or in the woods or in the forest, right? And like, we're the reincarnations of these beautiful women, goddesses, witches, whatever. And this programming is so deep within our bones because it's not from this lifetime, it's from previous lifetimes that we need to access. And again, can't until, I believe, we're in the safe container of a very healthy masculine who's not telling us or guiding us, but simply holding space for us to explore and feel, let go of all of the freaking blocks that are on our heart chakras to feel accepted and loved.
Totally feel that. Yeah, been a witch, priestess.
Girl,
in
hell
many, many a lifetimes, and this lifetime.
Yeah.
A lot of it's past lives. It's this lifetime, the way, I was parented, the world we grew up in. It's not really a world where we're taught to be that free. I mean, it's better than it's ever been. Obviously, like I work with a lot of women in the taboo realms who are like coming out in their business as like plant medicine practitioners or like mystics and some like erotic practitioners, like the taboo, the ecstatic, the scary shit to talk about. This is always a thing. This is always a thing that a fire that I have to walk women through who are here to hold like potent medicine that's here to change the world. Is like, this world like isn't like, you're farther along than most people if you're like the one holding that and leading that. And part of that is like, you have to be willing to say the scary things. You have to be willing to show up and understand like, you're actually going to be fine. Like, you might have some haters, right? There's always going to be some haters that are going to try to like shame you and bring you down. But like, we have to learn how to like not actually let that stop us and understand like, we are actually pretty safe and we're going to be okay. And we're here to shine the light on the things that have been in the dark and in the shadows.
Yeah. And reclaiming what you said earlier of the dark feminine or that dark goddess woman within you. I think it starts with that place. Like, if anybody's listening right now and is like, oh, I'm feeling something in me brewing and I don't know how to express her and let her out, it starts with fully accepting that the spiritual path, this journey, isn't about just love and light. It is about making the subconscious conscious. It's about bringing the light to the darkness. It's about creating, like what our partners did for us by creating that safety for us to fully emerge and express. I fully believe that women are fully capable of doing that for themselves as well, but they just have to create that safety in that container. It sounds like that's what you did for yourself.
Like, access the masculine, like getting my own apartment and being like, I have to get my shit together because I don't have a man right now who's gonna do all this. Like, I've got to like create the business and get the apartment and pay the rent and like really show myself that I got me. And I actually knew that I was like, as soon as I do this, he will come, because I actually want to attract a man who's attracted to me in my full spectrum of like my masculine, my feminine, my dark, my light, because I want a man who has all sides too, like we're not just
more fun. It's so fun. Like,
well, I'm like super switchy and queer, so I'm like, I can't always just be in my feminine. Like,
no.
Like, sometimes I like to take charge, but I also have really enjoyed having the consistent, healthy relationship with a man where I get to be in my feminine a lot more.
Yeah.
Right? that has been so nourishing for me.
Can you tell me a little bit of what it feels like when you are in your feminine? Like, what is that experience like, and how is it different with your partner now than it was with like other partners?
It feels like void. Like it feels like nothing and everything. Like if I just like lay in his arms and everything just disappears. Whereas before, feminine was more active. It was more like being in my feminine means I'm dancing sexy. Not that like that still feels like my feminine, but when you ask me that question, how's it different? I'm like, she's more relaxed and less performative. Like she doesn't have anything to prove. She's not trying to make anything happen with her sexuality or her emotions. She's just like is her sexuality and her emotions.
Without attaching to them as well, right?
Yeah, without attaching to them, without trying to figure out what they mean all the time, but just like being able to be in it and let it like be a river that passes. I think when I was having to hold everything myself, like all the masculine myself, like I didn't feel as safe to go as deep into surrender. Like I knew how to surrender in various ways, but with a man I can trust who's consistent, who's like
safe,
just always safe there for me, supportive of everything I do, and trusts my wild feminine too. Like I can go a lot deeper and feel a lot. My nervous system is like so much calmer and less inflamed, like physically, like healthier. My digestion's better. Like it's like everything changed.
Yeah,
because I didn't have to hold everything myself.
Wow. Gosh, isn't that the freaking dream? Like how I'm always stuck in this in between, and I'm so glad that we're having this conversation, and I hope you can shed some light on this. Because I'm a strong believer that women can fully awaken their feminine energy without needing a man and this and that. And I love what you said is I knew how to surrender, but with him, it was a deeper layer of surrender. And do you think that you need that container in your external reality in order to go into that depth within your own self? Or have you seen it possible without like a partner?
You know how I kind of see it is kind of how I look at like plant medicine. Is like you go really deep with like maybe you do ayahuasca or mushrooms or something, you have that experience. Do I need the mushrooms to feel that? No.
Yeah.
Right? I can now that I've got that experience and that download, because I know how to surrender, I could like lay there, close my eyes and be like, okay, come online, mushrooms, and like have a journey. So it's kind of a similar thing. It's like now that I've experienced that, what I imagine is that like, and I can say in my like self-pleasuring practice, like I can go just as deep without him there now that I had the experience of going that deep, because I know that I have like that experience of going there, so I can
and you know what it feels like in your body, so you can tap back into that feeling.
Yeah, that's the right wording, like tap back in to where I was.
Yeah, no, I love that you said that. And it's kind of like because I have women that are like, oh, I'll never feel that again because I don't have him in my life anymore and this and that. And I love that you share that, because it's like sometimes these beautiful, masculine, healthy men come into our life to be the portal to show us of our full capabilities of self. And not all relationships are meant to be a forever journey. And I don't even believe any relationships are meant to be a forever journey. Unless it's not in our hands. They're in your life until they have served their purpose. And until that soul contract is done, like if it's done, like you can't cling and try to force that connection to stay. What they do is show us how to access that within our own self, and how sometimes the relationship comes into your life and in your reality to teach you that within your own self, and then they have served their purpose. And women are like, oh, I'll never be able to access that again if he's gone, and they feel that that person took that part of them with them. And it's like, no, nobody can do that. Like you're a sovereign whole being, you're in charge,
you felt that
total power.
They were there as like a conduit, but like you're the one who felt that amount of love and expansion and pleasure. That wasn't them. That
and
was your body.
It, right? And let it and received it. Because that's another thing that I was struggling with is like my husband didn't change. I just opened more.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's why I think my journey with polyamory was so cool, because the whole reason I loved it so much was like, I am learning so much from every lover about my body, about my heart, about my mind. Like I'm going into these intimate spaces with like people all the time. And then now like in my time of being a sex worker, same thing. Like, and why it's been such a awesome journey is like the amount of people I've connected with on a deep level is insane. And it's actually something I remind my clients a lot, especially my male clients who like fall in love with me. I go like, you're not falling in love with me. We just met. Like, I'm amazing, but like, you're not actually falling in love with me. You're just feeling love in a different way than you have been feeling it. And then maybe you've never felt it before, or you're feeling pleasure in a deeper way than you've ever felt it before. But that's your body, that's your heart, that's your life. Like, I'm just here to like take you there. And for you then to go out into the world and take that into the world, into your relationships. I've always said like my work with men has been, it's mostly just been for the women. I'm like, I'm making these men better lovers and I'm sending them back out there and I'm like, go like spread the love, like go treat your partner in this way, like slow down or listen or ask questions and like go out there with this new vibration that you're holding because of, I took you there in 90 minutes. Now go do your thing.
I love that. It's so cool. What in your definition, like what's your definition of love?
Ooh. Wow, that's like the hardest question anyone's ever asked me. I feel like love is very like it's a similar word to magic. Like it's not meant to be defined because it is mystery. But I'll just say in this moment, what's coming through is love. Love is a compass.
What do you mean by that?
It shows you where to go. It leads you in the direction you're meant to go. Whether it's inward, whether it's toward a person, whether it's toward a place.
But an outfit, like a color.
An outfit.
Yeah.
Like anything.
A hobby, an activity, a meal.
Like it's like the feeling of like, oh, okay, that thing. Like it's either feeling my heart either expand or contract is showing me something. Like if it's doing things, I'm supposed to respond somehow. I'm supposed to like look at that and be like, where is this taking me? Is it expanding because like I'm really open? I'm like, yes, full fuck yes. Is it contracting because I want it, but I'm scared? Usually the things that I love the most are the things I'm most afraid of. And so it's like, so I'm like, if I'm getting super contracted and I notice like walls coming up around my heart, I'm like, okay, what's actually going on here, Hannah? So yeah, love is a compass.
Beautiful. And what would you say gets in the way of us following that compass? Like most common thing that you have seen in your clients or the people that you've worked with, like why is it so hard for us to trust love?
Because we're scared.
Of what?
It's just fear of losing it, fear of getting hurt. I think, it is a lot of all of us at some point in our childhood were told we were too much, we were too little, we were not enough, we were unworthy, we wanted too much,
limitations. True.
Like at some point, probably many points, we were given these messages in different ways and we started to believe them. At a certain point, we something clicked and we said, oh, I actually believe that unconsciously. And then as adults, we walk around and like we're letting our scared, wounded child run the show. And I think that's honestly the thing that stops most people of like leaning in is like there's like a little boy or a little girl in them that's fucking terrified that they're ignoring. If they were if they were doing the work and they were operating from their adult self and just like loving on their inner child, like giving it the things that it needed that it didn't get, then it might still be scary to like fall in love and to follow their heart and to do like push the edges and all of that. It would still be scary, but they would choose love over fear because they would know like, well, I'm here to fucking live.
Definitely. So have you always been somebody that follows your intuition, follows the voice of love? Or like, was that something you had to work on?
I think it really clicked. It clicked at a certain point, like in like my freshman year of college. I had a friend like take her life, and I had been like struggling with eating disorders and not loving myself, but like not letting anyone know I was like depressed. Like I was really good at hiding it. And she was too. When that happened, I was like, fuck, I have to figure out how to love myself. I have to act like I have to choose life, because I'm slowly killing myself. Like I'm doing bad things to my body. I'm not nourishing myself the way that it needs, for one, on a physical level, and then my soul is dying. Like I'm slowly killing my soul by not listening to my heart and like taking the risks and doing the things. So I was in that moment where I was like something switched on, where I was like, I gotta fucking actually live this time. Like this time around and in on Earth is this is the life where I do the thing. Because like we were saying with the witch wound thing, I'm like, this is the lifetime where I don't have to be that worried.
This is the lifetime where we say fuck it and go all in on whoever we want to be.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then
what a powerful portal.
Yeah, it just got easier. I think at first it like, you know, I would hear something, it would take me like a year to take action, or it would take me then like 6 months or 2 months. And then like, I'm at the point now where I'm like, okay, let's just make decisions. Like it's all going to work out in the end. So let's just keep moving. It's easier than being in resistance and like not doing. Because once I get myself into a freeze, it's like much harder to get out of it. So I just
you just try to like avoid yourself from getting back into that freeze, and you're just like honoring. So that's what's pushing you to do the thing, because you know what the freeze feels like and you just don't want to go back there.
And I know that there's always something else, like there's something more delicious on the other side of doing the scary thing.
We can't even know, right? It's always it's like you can't plan it. You can't like try to know what's going to happen on the other side. And so many people are like, how do I know I'm going to be okay on the other side? And I'm like, well, you're always going to be better than you are right here. Always. Because that's how it works. Like the universe isn't going to force you to do something that's so uncomfortable if it's only going to make your life worse. It will, like, unless you're stopping it and trying to control it and trying to like cling and trying to manipulate and control and all the things. The more you surrender, the more you let go, the more you say, you know what, I don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. I just know that this is what today is calling me to do. It's always going to look so much better than you can ever manifest for yourself. Forget the freaking visualizations and the vision boards and the journals and this and that. I mean, yes, do that in a way of like gratitude and in a way of processing and in a way of this would be nice, this or more, you know, always add the or more, because the universe is constantly listening. And don't limit yourself. I think we limit ourselves a lot when we try to control and manipulate things.
Yeah, there's a lot we can't control. I mean, there are certain things that we can, and we should, like, you know, we can track our money and we can make sure we work out, but there's the most stuff we can't. And so we might as well just show up every day, like you said, like the way that I always like to wake up and just be like, okay, what's alive today? That's the feminine, right? Like, what's alive today? What's moving? What's here? What are we feeling? Like, what's in the field? Who's messaging me? La la la. And then what am I going to do about it? That's the masculine coming in. Okay, what am I going to do about it? And then I just do it.
Yeah. I know, it really is so simple. I think human minds just make it so complicated. And I completely agree. I'm in the same exact frequency as that. So thank you, Hannah, so much for your beautiful energy and your wisdom today. How can my audience find you and work with you?
I'm on all platforms at the Hannah Hart, Twitter, X. If you want like the more kind of the more sexy side of things, they don't censor me as much over there. And that's kind of more my like sex work, tantric priestess identity, but I am the Hannah Hart everywhere. And then the Hannah Hart on Instagram and Facebook. And that's where you can find the work that I do with women. So I mentor women in the adult industry to build 6-figure businesses. And now I have a mastermind called the Wealthy Muse Mastermind, where I'm helping women in any industry really take the epic experience of their life and turn it into a sustainable business that evolves and expands with them.
Damn, that's fucking epic.
So if anyone's like
Yeah.
worked you're in the taboo, you've been,
Yeah.
you know, I get a lot of people in plant medicine and in the sex industry.
But I feel like it could help people, especially like, you know, women who must stay in corporate America and, you know, they're like number one goal in life is like to be like on a board or be a CEO, whatever, right? You're dealing with so much heavy, dark, masculine energy there that you need to be so embodied in your own darkness. And I think that like you can't be successful, I think, in the corporate executive world if you're not so fucking in touch with that dark energy. And so
Yeah,
like
or you're masculine. Yeah, I work and then I also work with women one-on-one, just basically on like whatever.
Yeah. I love
like
that.
whatever you feel called, you think I can support you in, like I am here for you.
Love it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you again so much. This has been
Thank
such a
you.
delight.
This was great.